This could be my favorite sneaker from Nike in 2023. I know that's crazy to say, but I mean, look at it. What's up, everybody? I'm Seth Fowler, and today I'm reviewing the upcoming Nike Airship PE Every Game. But before we dive into the review, I want to give a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Whatnot. So Whatnot, if you haven't heard of it, is a live auction shopping platform with sneaker auctions 24 hours a day, some starting as low as just $1. And not only do I buy a lot of sneakers from these sneaker auctions, I also sell a lot of sneakers on these sneaker auctions. And if you guys want to check out my upcoming Whatnot live stream, where I'm giving away both of these Air Jordan 1s, make sure to click the link in the top of the description below. Yeah, seriously, I'm giving away both of these sneakers for free in my upcoming Whatnot live stream, and also selling a bunch of sneakers from my own personal collection, some grails, some just really great shoes. So again, if you guys want to check that out, if you click the link in the top of the description below, if it is your first time signing up for Whatnot, you get $10 towards your first purchase. That means that's $10 off any of the pairs of sneakers that I'm selling or any other auction that you guys want to check out. The reason I love Whatnot as a buyer is because whenever I buy a product on Whatnot, I'm able to ask the seller questions live. I'm able to ask like, hey, can you show me that one scuff on the shoe, or can you show me the bottom of the shoe? Things like that, to make sure that whatever it is that I'm buying, I know exactly what I'm getting. So make sure to check out Whatnot by clicking the link in the description below, and make sure to bookmark my upcoming live stream. And of course, once again, huge thank you to Whatnot for supporting the channel. The Nike Airship PE Every Game officially releases on May 10th in the United States for a retail price of $140. Unfortunately, we don't really know exactly what the store list for this pair of sneakers is going to be, and also unfortunately, so far Nike Airships have only released at very exclusive boutiques throughout the country. For example, here in Philadelphia, the only place to grab these pairs for retail is at Lapstone and Hammer. But hey, if you missed out on this pair and you're watching this video after the release, or you just can't wait for the release of this shoe, I've made sure to leave a link to grab this shoe for resale through the YouTube shopping tab on your screen. But seriously, I've got to say that this really is one of the best Nike releases of the entire year. And I know we're only in the 4th month of the year, or almost 5th month of the year, but seriously, this shoe is insane. And of course, I'll get into all of the reasons why I love this shoe a little bit later on in the video, but before we do that, let's first take a look at the box. So at first glance, this box kind of looks like an Air Jordan 1 box, and the reason for that is because Michael Jordan actually wore this shoe, the Nike Airship PE. This is a shoe that Michael wore before the Air Jordan 1 came out in 1984, and this is a shoe that actually had the famous band colorway, not the Air Jordan 1s. But like I said, we'll get into more of those details a little bit later on in the video. Looking at the top of the box, you'll notice that you've got this blue Nike text and also this cream colored box. However, what's interesting about this box is you may notice this very slight gradient from a light cream color to a darker yellow color on the other side of the box. And what I love about this gradient is that it gives the box a very subtle aged look, one that's not easy to notice, but when you do notice it, you're like, wow, that's a really nice hit. Of course, you have some more blue Nike logos around the outside of the box, and then on one end, you have the size tag. As you guys can see, I grabbed a size 9, which is my true size, and the official colorway of this shoe is Summit White Diffused Blue. This box is sick. I love this box. It's so much nicer than all of the other Nike Airships that I have. Like, that fade really adds to the box. It's crazy how such a subtle thing really makes the box feel that much cooler. But getting back into the sneaker itself, this is the Nike Airship PE, not to be confused with the standard Nike Airship. Now, like I said, this is a silhouette that Michael Jordan wore before the Air Jordan 1, but what's interesting about this silhouette is that the PE version of the shoe is a little bit different than the standard version. In fact, the Nike Airship was originally designed to be the follow-up to the Air Force 1, and you can sort of see that in the shape of the shoe. It's sort of a mashup between the Blazer and the Air Force 1. Now, the story goes, when Nike signed Michael Jordan, they didn't have the Air Jordan 1 ready yet because the season was going to start a couple months after they signed him. So instead, what they did while they prepared the Air Jordan 1 was they had him wear a PE version of the Nike Airship. And the retros of the Airship that we've been getting over the last couple years have been the PE version of the shoe. So while they look almost identical to the original Nike Airship, they are slightly different, and this is much closer to the spec that Michael Jordan actually wore on court, which in my opinion is even cooler than the original Nike Airship. For some Nike Airship purists, they might prefer the original, but for me, I think this is way cooler. In fact, so much so that I actually have 2 other pairs of Nike Airships, and I even bought my wife a pair because I think they're so cool. For me, as an Air Jordan 1 lover, it's really, really exciting to have the predecessor to that shoe in my collection and be able to wear it. It's something that I never thought I was going to be able to have because that shoe hadn't released since the 1980s, and so getting it back in 2020 was a pretty big deal. Now again, as you guys might remember, the pair that released in 2020 was from the New Beginnings pack, which is a pack that resells for like $2,000, so it was very unattainable, but since then Nike has released other colorways of the shoe as more limited drops at places like Lapstone and Hammer in Philadelphia. On a side note though, what's interesting about those more, I guess, GR limited releases of the Nike Airship is that the hype really isn't there. The only pair that was really hyped up was the New Beginnings pair and the Ama Maniere pair, which was like a random collaboration out of nowhere that was just a blue and white Nike Airship. It doesn't make sense why The yellow colorway, the green colorway, and the orange colorway aren't hyped whatsoever. I don't understand why. I think they're amazing shoes, but they're not really hyped, even though they're like stupid limited. But it seems like this time around with the every game version of the shoe, we are gonna get a very hyped up release of the Nike Airships. But once again, it gets even more interesting because this every game version of the Nike Airship is actually a modified version of a Nigel Sylvester friends and family pair, which we're never gonna see. And apparently this every game version of the shoe is not associated with the Nigel Sylvester friends and family pair whatsoever, even though they look almost identical. None of it makes sense to me. I'm not gonna lie, none of it makes sense. I mean, sure, there are some differences between this shoe and the Friends and Family pair, namely materials and also the text on the back of the shoe. On the Nigel Sylvester Friends and Family pair, it says Bike Air instead of every game, but that's really the main difference between these two shoes. And it doesn't really make sense to me why they gave him a Friends and Family version of the shoe that looks so similar, but isn't tied to the story of this shoe whatsoever. It's just purely a Nigel Sylvester version of the shoe. The story behind this colorway is actually Michael Jordan's underwear. You heard that right. The colorway of this shoe is literally based on the pair of shorts that Michael Jordan wore underneath his basketball shorts during every single game. That's why you got the name Every Game. This is literally an underwear themed pair of shoes. Sure, it's not exactly a pair of boxers, it's a pair of practice shorts or compression shorts or whatever they were, but it's something he wore under his regular shorts, so there you go. Now to be fair, it's not a regular pair of shorts. This was Michael Jordan's lucky pair of UNC shorts. That's why you get the UNC colorway on this shoe, and Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan, so really anything that he wore, I guess, is more exciting, I shouldn't say that, more special than stuff that normal people wear, but at the same time, it's still kind of a weird concept. All of that to say though, the colorway of this shoe is fire, no matter what the inspiration of this shoe is. And I still don't know why exactly this is not associated with Nigel Sylvester and why he got a Friends and Family shoe that looks exactly like this shoe. I'm sure there was some internal reason for that. Maybe he just liked this shoe and he's like, hey, can I have a Friends and Family pair? That's actually probably exactly what happened, but I'm not sure. Either way, we're getting this shoe. It's coming out soon and I'm excited about it. So I know that was a lot of preamble for a pretty simple review, but I wanted to say it because that's really the stuff that makes this shoe more interesting than it looks on the surface. And I shouldn't really say that because on the surface, this shoe looks incredible. But diving into the materials that make up a majority of this Nike Airship PE, you've got this white cracked leather. Now, while I don't usually love cracked leather because it kind of chips off over time, I do think it definitely adds to the aesthetic of this shoe being aged, which I know is just a huge trend right now, especially for Nike, but on this shoe, it does look really nice. Now, a big difference between this shoe and the Bike Air pair, Nigel Sylvester's pair, is that on his pair, he just has standard white leather, which I know there are some people out there who would prefer that, but this is what we're getting. Kind of got to live with it. But in terms of cracked leather, it's not cracked too much to where it should chip off very quickly. I think it'll take a while before any chips off, if any chips off at all. I will say, aesthetically though, I don't mind the way that this leather looks. Continuing up in the shoe to the eye stay of the sneaker, you've got this light blue colored suede material that's super hairy. That of course is the same sort of UNC blue that you'd find on Michael Jordan's undershorts that the shoe is inspired from. And what you might also notice about this shoe, or just the Nike Airships in general, is that while they look a lot like a pair of Air Jordan 1s, there are some pretty large paneling differences on the shoe. The first is this leather flap towards the bottom of the tongue. Now, unlike a pair of Air Jordan 1s, this leather flap actually is separate from the rest of the upper of the shoe, and interestingly enough, underneath this leather flap, you've got this elastic bungee area, which doesn't make a lot of sense because the shoe doesn't really bend in that area, but it's there nonetheless. And also underneath this leather flap, there are no eyelets for the laces. So the laces literally just go through the leather flap and then kind of lay across the top of the leather underneath that, which is kind of a complex way of saying the eyelets are only on this leather panel of the shoe and not on the base part of the shoe, I guess towards the top of the tongue that they are. I'm getting too deep into this, but you guys catch my drift. Speaking of the laces, the shoe comes pre-started with a set of dark blue laces. Like most pairs of Air Jordan 1s, it's only laced up through the bottom lace eyelet. The rest you have to lace yourself. And if you don't like these dark blue laces, which let's be honest, don't really match the rest of the upper of the shoe, except for the sock liner, they do give you a set of cream colored laces if you decide to switch them out. So for the purposes of this review, I just decided to go with the dark blue laces that came pre-started in the shoe. However, the more that I wear the shoe, the more that I think I'm gonna switch out these laces for the cream laces because I think they'll look a little bit cleaner and they'll match with the midsole, which I really like. Beneath the laces, you've got a white tongue, which is pretty similar to an Air Jordan 1 tongue, and the material used on the tongue is pretty thin, so the yellow foam beneath that material actually shows through the white and gives it kind of a cream colored look, which I really like. Then at the top of the tongue, you've got a Nike Air tag that comes in white with blue embroidery. Then moving inside the sneaker, you've got got this dark blue fabric sock liner, and rounding off the inside of the shoe, you've got a white insole with the Jumpman printed on the heel in dark blue. One other detail that I just noticed is that they also print the size of the shoe on the medial side of the sock liner. In this case, it's a 9 because it's a size 9, which I always kind of like. It's something that they used to do in all of the original Air Jordan sneakers and some of the original Nike sneakers. They don't do it anymore unless it's like a retro pair like this, but it's a cool detail. It's a cool callback to the past. Now, as you would probably guess, because the shoe looks a lot like the Air Jordan 1, it fits a lot like the Air Jordan 1. So for me, that's true to size, but for you, it could be something different. If you are to buy this shoe online, I would suggest going with true size or whatever size you usually wear in Air Jordan 1s. However, if you have the chance to try the shoe on first before you buy it, I definitely recommend doing that to make sure that you're grabbing the right size for you. Also, I gotta point out the Apothecary socks that I'm wearing in the on-foot portion of this video. They are fire. They are part of our Graffiti 3.0 collection dropping this Friday. The pair that I'm wearing is a white pair with dark blue graffiti, which matches this shoe perfectly. It's crazy. But we've also got 3 other colorways if you decide you want to try something different. And all of the socks drop officially on our website, apothecary.com, at 11 a.m. Eastern time this Friday. So hey, if you want a super comfortable pair of socks that match these shoes perfectly, make sure to check out our upcoming drop. Then continuing back on the shoe, you've got more of that white cracked leather that wraps all the way around the heel of the sneaker. And then on the midfoot of the shoe, you've got this blue suede Nike swoosh. I know it's simple, but I just love this color combination. The blue with the white and the cream and the darker blue. It's subtle, but it's so clean, especially in this suede. It looks awesome. That's actually a huge highlight for me. The materials used on this shoe, I think they look great. Just above the Nike swoosh, in a pretty large change from the Air Jordan 1, you've got this blue suede panel that wraps all the way around the top of the ankle. As you probably remember, the Air Jordan 1 actually has a separate wing panel that kind of covers up this area on that shoe. Again, this is a predecessor of that shoe, so that's why the shoe doesn't look exactly the same. And then finally moving around to the heel of the shoe, you've got the words "Every Game" embroidered into this blue suede panel in white. Now again, the "Every Game" is in reference to the fact that he wore those shorts every game. So that's why it says that. Kind of would have preferred the Bike Air because I think that's cooler. But hey, you know what? An inspiration is an inspiration. And you don't have to know exactly what it means, because if you know what this means, it kind of bums me out a little bit. But it is what it is. Continuing down on the shoe, you get to this contrasting cream colored midsole, which I really, really like. And then finally rounding off the sneaker, you've got this dark blue rubber outsole, which has some flecks of white in there to make it look a little bit older. It's kind of similar to the Lost and Found Air Jordan 1s that also had some flecks of white. And as you may have also noticed, the outsole of this shoe is ever so slightly different than a standard pair of Air Jordan 1s. So overall, in my opinion, the Nike Airship PE Every Game is one of the best, if not the best, Nike sneaker that Nike has dropped all year. Yes, we had the Big Bubble Air Max 1s, which were amazing. They were at the top of the list before this one came along, but looking at this shoe, the materials, the quality of this shoe, even though it's only a $140 shoe, is pretty decent. And the colorway used on this shoe is just amazing. It's such a great looking shoe, super easy to rock. And unfortunately, it will probably be pretty limited, so pretty difficult to get. But if you can get your hands on a pair of these, I definitely recommend picking them up. But hey, at this point in the video, I would love to know your thoughts on the upcoming Nike Airship PE Every Games and whether you're planning to grab a pair of these for yourself. So make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.